Mazov, and this is our session number 6 of the Wyckoff Trading Institute. And today, as usual, with me is Joe Gobbin, and Joe Gobbin is going to translate this session for us.
大家好，这里是罗蒙博格马佐夫教授，今天是我们的第6次视频，做翻译的还是我的学生赵国本先生。
First of all, we'd like to thank everyone for your support and emails and people talking about how good the content is. We really appreciate this. And we are definitely trying to solve some of the technical difficulties that we have uploading the videos to Yuko. As you might have noticed, all of the videos are actually a little bit fuzzy. So this is the thing that we're working on, and we're going to ask for your help today on that.
感谢大家给我们来信或者是留言，大家很多学生说我们的视频他们很喜欢，谢谢大家。大家也看到了，我们的视频现在有些质量有些问题，上传到优酷以后呢，这个视频质量不太好，然后我们也试图在改善，而且我们也向同学们请教一下，一会儿大家看到这个 PPT。
And today we decided that we're going to go through some of the questions that you guys sent to us. And thank you again for the questions. From time to time, maybe every 5th session, we'll devote to some of the questions. So keep sending those. If we don't answer the questions right away, this means that it's in the bucket of questions, and we'll come back to those. And then we're going to look at the Hang Seng index.
今天呢，我们主要是解答问题，以后大概是每5个视频，我们就集中一次解决问题。请大家继续给我们把你们的问题啊或评论啊发给我们。如果我们没有立刻解答的话，那有可能我们是攒到一块儿，然后来进行一次统一的解答。解答完问题以后呢，我们看一下恒生指数。
All right. Well, let's jump into some of the administrative questions, and John Gobbin is going to lead this session here.
那么我们现在先进行一些个就是管理方面的问题。首先呢，就是由我来给大家解释啊，因为都是中文的 PPT。首先呢，我们很多同学给我们发信说这个能不能建一个微信群或者 QQ 群。而这个项目呢，才刚刚开始1个月，所以说我们现在还没有建立，但是我们希望将来会建立的，也希望咱们同学们努力学习，尽快掌握这个微科夫方法。将来哪些同学已经对微科夫方法掌握的非常好了，然后呢，我们希望他来主导这个 QQ 群或微信群，然后呢，同时帮助罗蒙老师来管理这个，帮助解决一些问题。OK，next slide， 好吗？另外啊，这很多同学来信说能不能跟大家分享一下课件，罗蒙老师非常愿意，但是呢，我们这个课件我就不知道怎么分享。这样吧，我们建一个邮件组，请大家给我们这个 Wyckoff Trading at hotmail.com 发邮件。我收到邮件以后呢，我会把大家放在一个组里面，然后每次我们上传视频之前上传视频的同时就把罗老师的课件发给大家。然后另外呢，很多人来问了很多问题，罗老师呢也希望能更好的解答这些问题，而且也希望将来的视频呢更好的满足大家的要求。所以说大家在给我们发你们的邮件的时候，能够介绍一下自己，那就最好。比方说，如果你谈一谈自己交易的品种，我是交易股票啊、期货啊还是外汇啊，我是长线交易、中线还是日内，我用的分析方法是什么，我是技术分析派还是基础派，还是我2个都参考。比方说技术分析，我是艾略特波浪啊，或者是我使用各种指标啊，都可以聊聊你自己。如果你还可以说说，我现在已经是很好的 trader 了，我很好的交易者，我可以独立交易，有自己的系统，并能盈利，还是我现在还不行，我要学习。也就是说，你自己的这个阶段，和自己的水平稍稍聊一下。另外说一下自己的强项和弱项。还有呢，将来你希望罗老师讲哪些内容，都可以在这里简单介绍一下。如果你不想介绍自己，也可以。你就把你的邮件联系方式 告诉我们，我们给你发罗老师的课件 PPT。Roman next one。这个视频问题啊，我跟大家讲一下，我们是用GoToMeeting 的这个软件自动录制的，是 MP4 的格式。在我们这里呢，视频是非常清晰，而且大概只有一两百个 megabyte 这个样子，这个大小。但是一上传到优酷以后就模糊了。然后有些朋友给我们建议是腾讯视频，我也申请了账号，上传以后呢，发现比优酷更模糊，所以说我们这方面没办法解决。如果你们以前也上传过到优酷视频或者是其他的网站的话，你们用什么软件来录制的？录制完了以后，视频的 size 这个大小是多少？请你告诉我们。如果找到这些合适的解决办法以后呢，我可以把前5个视频再翻拍，重新上传。如果你们能告诉我解决办法，那就最好。请你们在给我们发电子邮件的时候，顺带告诉我你们的办法。好，谢谢大家。好吗 ？Next one.
All right, great. So hopefully we'll get some kind of feedback from you guys, and you can help us out to figure out the video quality, which is extremely important, when we look at the charts.
希望大家能够帮忙。如果我们在你们的邮件中找到解决办法的话，那我们肯定会把视频的质量解决。我知道视频的质量跟大家学习是非常相关。
So thank you for all of your help.
好，谢谢大家。
Okay, and now we're going into the segment with questions. And again, thank you so much for all of the questions that were sent. This question specifically comes from Hawaii. And I believe that the question that is on the top of the slide right here sounds like this. What could we possibly do in a scenario where instead of anticipating phase C retouch of the support, we actually rebound higher and then go into the established uptrend? Or the second scenario, where when price comes to the resistance, it fails and comes back into the potential phase C and then goes up.
这里呢是一个叫做Hawaii的朋友，然后给罗老师提的问题。这个问题呢就是说，在吸筹区间的时候啊，有的时候呢，你像罗老师在这个画了有一个弹簧效应，也就是价格再次探底，然后才开始突破。这个Hawaii朋友说，有的时候它没有再次探底，这个时候怎么办？还有的时候呢是明明应该是已经3次探底了，但是呢上到阻力区的时候又转回来了，然后再一次探底以后，然后才开始突破的。他问罗老师这样怎么办？有的时候我错过了很多机会，向罗老师请教，我应该怎么办？
So let's discuss the scenarios. These are actually tactical things, and these are the things that I usually discuss later on with my students, because we still need to have a more comprehensive handle on the material itself.
这个问题呢，其实是一个交易策略的问题。这些问题基本上罗老师是在他的高级班后面才开始探讨这些问题。
But let's assume that we are in this situation where we have a position on and we have to think tactically about what's going to happen next.
如果假设一下啊，我们现在已经买入了，已经在市场上有这个股票了，我们看出现这种情况下我们怎么办？
So with the first scenario right here, where we are anticipating a touch of the support in phase C and it doesn't happen and the price goes higher, let's look into this area right here. And let's assume that instead of phase C, we're thinking that maybe this is a secondary test in phase B.
看看第一种情况，也就是这个 phase 这个阶段 C 没有那么低的情况，罗老师画了一个圈儿。假如说这不是阶段 C 的话，它是阶段 B 的2次测试。
In this scenario, we would be expecting the price to go up to the resistance, and then we would be expecting the price to come back to the level of the support and create some kind of phase C right here.
这种情况呢，我们就期望在我们的脑海中，我们期望是股价上升完以后，上升到阻力区，然后再下降到24摄氏的低点，然后再开始形成阶段 C， 然后再开始上涨。
And at some point, this scenario is not going to unfold the way how we thought it would. So what the price would do is the price is going to consolidate, and then it's going to reverse around this area right here, and it's going to start going up, confirming that the uptrend is already in place.
但是有的时候呢，股市的发展和我们想的不太一样。很多时候，这个股市它并没有下探到24摄氏这个低点，它在上方进行盘整，盘整完以后就开始突破了。
So this is where we change our view on the whole structure. And at this point of time, when we have this reversal and the confirmation of the uptrend, we're going to say that we were wrong with our labeling or with our part of our analysis, not necessarily within the directional bias, but more on the labeling itself. And once we have these two confirmations, then we should restructure our trade and make sure that we take some of the portion of the uptrend.
在这种情况下，如果我们看到在上部、在顶部，这个时候就开始这个反转了，向上反转了，而且是突破，而且看到了这个趋势已经确认了。这个时候呢，我们就知道我们原来的期望的水平的下探到24摄氏低点的这种结构不存在。这个时候并不是说我们判断的方向错了，而只是我们标记上就要做出调整。我们标记上错了，这个时候呢，我们就开始及时调整，因为我们已经看到上升趋势已经被确认了。这个时候我们希望的来说呢，我们能够抓住整个这个上升片段来盈利。
Another tactical decision about this question, and specifically either early entry in phase B or late entry after phase C, could be seen in the next trading range right here.
另外一个呢，就是说问题谈到了，我们要么就是在阶段 B 过早的介入了，或者是阶段 C 晚些介入，这个问题怎么办？我们再看后面这边这一段。
Let's assume that we're thinking that this is phase C and our point of entry is around this bar right here. So what does it mean if we are wrong and if indeed this is phase B instead, meaning that the price should go to the resistance, have some kind of reversal there, and then come back into the trading range?
那么我们看看最后的一段，像罗老师说的，这一点我们本来以为它是阶段 C， 如果它是阶段 C 的话，那我们的买入点就这根棒，就是这根K 线。但是如果我们分析错的话，我们判断错误，如果这只是阶段 B， 那么就会出现什么情况呢？会出现股价上涨到阻力区，然后反转向下，这是阶段 B 的特点。
If that's the case, and we are wrong in our identification of phase C, and we're still in phase B, then our tactics are going to be to make sure that we are exiting the position at the first signs of the reversal.
如果是这种情况下，也就是说我们在阶段 B 过早的介入了，还没有到阶段 C 的时候，我们就过早的介入在阶段 B。在这种情况下，我们就要使自己明白，我们可能是这个介入过早。那么在股价下跌的时候，在这个上部我们已经看出来，有下跌的趋势，这个时候赶快卖出保利。
And the same scenario is being depicted right here on the schematic, where the price could go to the level of the resistance and then could fail back and could have phase C, later phase C. So if we open the position right here, our goal is to close this position at this point because we don't know how deep phase C is going to develop, and it actually could hit our stop loss before going up.
这也就是说，夏威夷同学问的第二个问题，在这种情况下，也就是说，它这个我们介入的这一点并不是阶段 C， 而是阶段 B， 这个上升到阻力区，甚至还没到阻力区的时候，这股价就可能反转。那么在反转的初期，要赶快卖出保利，在这个反转初期赶快卖出保利。原因是什么呢？原因我们不知道这个阶段 C 它的下调位置会在哪里，有可能会下调多一点，多到什么呢？多到跌到前几次的阻力这个支撑线以下，这个时候呢有可能触发我们的 stop loss 止损点，这个时候就不划算了，所以我们要提前卖出。
All right. Again, these are tactical scenarios, and this is something that I think that we're going to discuss more and more, into the future, because there is still a lot of analysis points that we need to go through. And one of the things that you could also keep in mind here, instead of the tactics, is to develop your analytical skills more to recognize that indeed this is phase C, and this would help you out to trade much better.
罗老师再次强调，这个其实是交易策略，也就是我们遇到不同的情况如何办，如何应对。而且另外一个呢，就是我们要提高自己的分析水平，也就多学多练。就知道哪一些个是阶段 C 的时候我们怎么办，如果它不是的话怎么办。
All right, let's go to the second question. And this question has been sent to me also by one of the students here. And actually, this is the question from Hawaii, I think, again. And the question was the confusion with the much larger picture, and then with the smaller trading ranges that we could observe happening almost everywhere.
这个问题呢，第二个问题呢，其实也是夏威夷同学发的。那么他就问，在一个大的 trading range 和一个小的这个交易区间，互相掺杂的时候，这时候容易造成混乱，怎么办？罗蒙老师呢已经画出来了，在一个大的交易区间里，看到这个大红线。两个大红线就是交易区间，在这个整个大的这个交易区间，而在里面呢，它画到了很多小的交易区间，一些小的交易区间。其实这种情况是非常非常普遍，几乎每一个股票图谱里都会出现这种情况。
So let's look at the big trading range first. We have phase A that has a selling climax after the climactic run to the downside. We have the first rally that has the qualities of the change of character, which is an automatic rally. And then we are testing a climactic low with the secondary test.
那么我们先看一下大的这个交易区间，在大的交易区间里面，大家看猛然间下跌以后，快速下跌以后，出现了抛售高潮，抛售高潮完以后呢，就出现了这个特性改变，特性改变就是自动上涨这一段，然后在二次测试。去测试那个抛售高潮的底部，这构成了大的交易区间的阶段 A。
In phase B, because the price goes lower than the level of the support of the climactic action, we are testing this level, but because it's a low, we would say that this is a secondary test as a sign of weakness.
然后呢，在二次测试以后进入了阶段 B， 阶段 B 以后我们测试的还是抛售高潮和二次测试那个低点，在这张图上呢出现了底比底低，也就是低底的这么一种情况，所以在这种情况下我们把它叫做阶段 B 的弱势现象。
And then in phase C, we're seeing again the price making a low, making it a spring.
到阶段 C 的时候，我们也看到了那个股价呢更加出现了底比底低的这种情况，而且。
And then out of the low of phase C, we have the rally that overcomes a point of resistance that was created in phases A and B. And we have the commitment to the upside. So this identifies a major sign of strength for us, followed by an area of the backing up action.
在阶段 C 以后呢，我们看到了股价开始上升，而且突破了这个压力线、压力趋势线。也就是从阶段 A 和阶段 B 顶端画的一条趋势线，我们把这点叫做横跨大区间的强势信号，强势出现，这个强势出现完以后呢，出现了一个回踩。
And the key here, when we think about the price structures, is to understand that on the lower time frame. So here we are looking at the daily chart, but on the lower time frame, we are going to have a fully developed and concluded structures that are going to have their own price cycles. So for instance, we could see a distribution in this area that leads the price to the downside. Then we see an area of short accumulation that leads the price to the upside in the upswing. Then we see an area of the distribution again, which leads the price to the downside. Then we see again a smaller version of the accumulation, and that leads the price into the sign of strength rally. And then we see another trading range, which is acting as a reaccumulation, which leads the price to higher levels.
罗猛教授解释说，这是一个时间段的问题，也就是我们观察的角度和观察这个时间段到底有多大的问题。在这个大区间里面，我们可以看到它这个是发展了好几个月的一个区间，而且我们看到这是日线图。在这个日线图上面呢，其实我们也可以看到，如果我们用观察几天，或者是把它给用小的时间段来观察，比方说日内交易区间，或者是几个小时图的时候，我们就可以看到上面这一步其实是一个完整的派发区间，派发完以后价格下跌，跌到这个整个大的区间的底部，这时候呢又形成了一个小的吸筹区间，吸完筹以后呢，完整的吸筹完之后，股价上涨，上涨完以后呢，到顶端的时候，到这个交易区间的顶部了，大的交易区间顶部的时候，又开始了一个派发区间，然后再开始一个吸筹区间，再开始一个上涨，然后又开始盘整。所以说这个在大区间套小区间的时候，这是在整个股市发展中非常常见的现象，只是一个不同时间段的观察点不一样而已。
My mentor and my teacher, Hank Pruden, who unfortunately passed away this last August, had an expression, a principle within a principle. So what he meant is a smaller trading range or a larger trading range was a collection of all of the upswings and downswings, and in between them, we can find smaller trading ranges that are still visible on the daily chart, but if we go to the intraday charts, they will be visible even more.
也就是罗猛教授他谈到了他的老师，也就是汉克·普鲁登教授。我想大家很多同学对这个汉克·普鲁登教授都非常熟悉，他是魏科夫这个学界的他当时是校长，而且呢也是非常有名的专家，世界知名的专家。他跟罗猛教授探讨这个问题的时候，他说是这个大的区间套小区间的时候，如果在大的区间里面，我们看通过日线图，我们其实有时候对小区间也可以判定。你像这几个区间，用日线图的时候都可以清晰的看出来。但是如果我们用小时图或者是日内交易的这个区间来看的话，你就会看得更清晰。
So let's quickly go through these trading ranges for you to see how they could be labeled. So we've talked about the distribution range right here, and I see a little bit upslope right here. So I'm going to identify just phase C, phase A, phase B, and all of those phases are going to have the same type of Wyckoff events that we've talked about in the distribution. It's going to have its own buying climax, automatic rally, secondary test, upthrust, sign of weakness, LPSY, sign of weakness, LPSY, and that's the whole structure. Then going into the accumulation, we could label the range the same way. So here's our phase C, phase B, phase A, and we have a selling climax, automatic rally, secondary test, upthrust action, sign of weakness, LPS, sign of strength, backing up action.
大家看这个小区间在大区间的那样，对于小区间，罗蒙老师其实立刻就可以把它画出来，而且它的事件和它的画法和大区间是一样的。比方说这一段，罗蒙老师画的是一个什么？是一个派发区间，对不对？在派发区间的时候，他也画了阶段A、阶段 B、阶段 C。在阶段 A 的时候呢，他画出来这是购买狂潮，然后呢自动下跌，然后到二次测试。到阶段 B 里面，它可以画出来这个上冲回落，然后呢它画出来在这个是阶段 B 的弱势信号，然后到阶段 C， 然后呢阶段 C 呢是最后供应点，然后开始下跌到阶段 B， 然后到了这个底缘的时候，在大区间的下缘的时候，在这一段它是一个吸筹区间，吸筹区间也一样划分成阶段 A、阶段 B、阶段 C， 然后呢它的这个魏科夫事件的标记和大区间是完全一样的，大家也就是说在小区间、大区间都可以练习来标记。
Then looking at this trading range right here, phase C, and I'm going to go a little bit faster here. This trading range right here, phase C. There are so many ranges that we could find. And looking at this big one right here, so this is a clearly phase C, phase A, phase B, upthrust, buying climax, automatic reaction, secondary test, attempt to spring, LPS tests, sign of strength, backing up action, major sign of strength, backing up action.
罗猛教授立刻又画了另外几个区间交易区间，比方这个大家可以换一个交易区间，这里是阶段 C， 这里又是个交易区间，这里是阶段 C， 交易区间阶段 C， 这个大的是整个一个大的交易区间，然后有购买狂潮，然后下面是自动下跌，然后二次测试，然后到阶段 B 的时候，这有点像上冲回落的这么一个行为，然后到阶段 C， 阶段 C 的时候，这个类似一个 spring 弹簧效应，到这来最后支撑点，然后突破强势信号，然后回踩，然后到一个大突破主阶段的突破，然后再回踩。
So the structure is always complex. That's how we have to think about this. We can't really think very linearly about this analysis. We have to understand that going to the lower time frame or going to the higher time frame, we will see either much smaller structures or much larger structures.
所以说这个结构上来说，它虽然是比较复合，它是个复合结构，也就是大的结构套小的结构。从时间段上来说呢，也就是你观察的是大的时间段还是小的时间段，大家应该是把它综合起来看。
All right, let's go to the next question. And I actually do not remember the name of the student who asked me this question, so I apologize for this. But the question was about different labeling. Why in one case we labeled the trading range that was here in 2015, 2016, and yet on some other charts we have labeled either this whole area right here as a trading range, or in this particular case with the utilities, we actually looked at the trading range that has started only in 2016.
这是另外一个同学提问的，就是说为什么我们的标记不一样？然后呢，他把这两个行业指数的周线图放在这里了。第一个呢，它标记的是一个大家可以看到是一个比较向下的交易区间。然后第二个呢， 它却标的是一个横向的一个交易区间。
Well, we need to figure out what's happening within the specific structure. So, for instance, with the consumer staples, we see in hindsight that this particular sector has outperformed all other sectors, and the area of accumulation was more compact. If we would look into the advancement of the price, let's say in the utilities to the downside, it shows much weaker picture, which suggests that supply is still present here, and it still needs to go through the period of absorption. Whereas in the consumer staples, absorption has happened much faster, and we see the period of absorption in this area right here. And that suggests that the supply is in strong hands, and we could expect some kind of advancement in price.
大家看到这两个图最大的差别就是什么呢？就是说这个消费行业，它的图是非常强，这个走势非常强，在下跌完以后，它的迅速吸收，然后就开始上涨了。而在这个公用事业行业呢，它走势比较弱，在过了这一段以后呢，它有又一波的下跌。而下跌完以后呢，这个时候说明什么？说明它供应很强，也就是说这个浮筹很多，它需要有一段很长的时间来再次吸收。而在这个消费行业的时候，大家看到罗老师画的，它的吸收是除了下跌以外，这一段时间是做一次吸收，吸收完以后浮筹减少，都在庄家手上了，这时候呢，这个股价就迅速开始上升了。而这一段的供应量比较大。供应量比较大的时候，有个大机构它需要的吸筹时间、消化的时间就更长一些。
So based on this, we would at the time label it in a specific way. So we would be thinking that this could be phase C. Even at this point right here, we might be questioning, what is it? Is this a climactic action, or is this a potential phase C? But as the price starts to fail in this area right here, we probably would recognize that this is a trading range rather than an area of the absorption where the price starts to move up.
这两个阶段，我们从这一段的时间来看啊，罗蒙老师说从这段时间来看，从这段时间以后，在这个消费行业的时候，我们可以看到这儿也是一段吸收，吸收完以后呢，股价就可以继续上涨了。而到这块的时候，它下跌完以后呢，本来像消费这个行业的话，它是上涨的，但是到这块以后，大家可以看到它的上涨失败了。失败完以后，我们立刻就知道，那么这块又形成了一个大的交易区间，也就是在这块需要一个平行的交易区间来吸收整个过程。
So in other words, we really should be flexible in our analysis, almost like water. That finds the space, to go if you present the space. We should be flexible like this and consider different scenarios as to how the price could unfold, and then seek that confirmation as the market shows us the correct way.
所以说，罗老师说，在我们分析的时候呢，我们要更加灵活一些。我们是根据市场的发展情况来做分析，来做标定。我们的脑海中要有几种不同的情况，它要出现这种情况下会怎么样，出现那种情况下会怎么样，我们是根据市场的走向来进行分析。
All right, so this concludes our portion of the question and answers. And again, thank you so much for sending us all of the questions. We really appreciate that.
好，这段我们就回答问题完毕。好，谢谢大家给我们发很多问题过来。
Now let's look at the Hang Seng index. And some of you have the ability to trade this market. And I'm really happy to hear this. Some of you expressed an opinion that maybe this is a slightly more mature market, which I would tend to agree. But there is definitely such a big correlation that we could see between this market and the Chinese markets.
有一些同学要求我们讲一下恒生指数。 很高兴有一些同学能够根据恒生指数或者是港股进行交易，而且有一些同学呢认为港股大概比 A 股呢稍稍成熟一点，它的发展变化呢也稍稍更趋成熟吧。也就是说，我们同意大家的观点，然后呢而且也看到恒生指数其实和 A 股的指数有一些很大的地方有联系，我们再讲一讲。
We could see on this weekly chart that we have been in the steady uptrend that has originated from an area of the accumulation where we could see a potential phase A, sign of weakness in phase B, different upthrust actions, and actually this would be a sign of strength right here with the LPS or backing up action. So this would conclude phase C and phase B. Phase B is going to be larger than A or C, and then phase D would conclude the last point of support action.
那么大家通过恒生指数这周线图呢，可以看到，然后呢有一段上涨，也就上涨突破上涨。在突破上涨之前呢，它这个突破上涨什么造成的？就是这段吸筹区间来造成的。吸筹区间，罗蒙老师画了阶段 A、阶段 B、阶段 C。在阶段 B 的时候呢，它已经标记出来，这段是上冲回落的一个行为，这里是阶段 B 的弱势信号，然后到阶段 C， 标记阶段 C、阶段 D。阶段 B 一般来说要比阶段 A 要大一些，要比阶段 C 时间长一点。然后阶段 D 呢，它是包括整个的强势出现和最后支撑点，或者是回踩。
So as we conclude this campaign with the buying climax, which is very visible here, this is the last climactic run that has the increase in the spread, increase in the velocity. It goes into the area of being overbought. It has the volume signature that is increasing on the upside right here. And obviously this chart is slightly different because of the colors. So we have to mention this, Mike, to make sure that everybody understands it. But the climax is very well defined.
Raman, yeah, we use a different color, right? Yeah, this color is different from original A 股 color.
Yeah, I just would like you to mention this.
Yeah. Thank you, Raman. Yeah. 罗猛教授刚才说啊，他说这个图的这个蜡烛图的这个颜色，跟 A 股的颜色不一样，大家发现没有？A 股来说是红色的是上升曲线，而这个恒生指数呢，它红色的是下降曲线。所以说大家注意一下。另外呢，他就说，如果根据结构分析的话，那么罗蒙老师刚才已经说了，在这里是交易区间，突破完交易区间以后，其实在这一点或者是如果我们在阶段 C 没有介入的话，那么在阶段 D 应该已经买入了。买入完以后，你看发现没有，我们的股票就一直可以持股待涨，一直涨到什么？涨到抢购高潮，这时候我们出来。如何判定抢购高潮呢？也就这一段来说，它就出现一个高潮行为。我们看到它的斜率显著的增高，另外呢，它蜡烛线的价差显著增大，另外这个成交量也显著比以前要大，这都是高潮行为。而在高潮行为的时候，我们就要注意，恐怕要卖出保利了。也就其实第一个 K 线反转的时候，我们就可以把它卖出。
We could also see the confirmation of the buying climax in the next move to the downside, which defines a change of character. Why is this a change of character? Well, look at the characteristics of this reaction. This is the largest reaction that we see on the way up. And even though this seems like of the same magnitude, but when you look at this spread increase and that it took less of a time to travel to the area of the support, we could see that the reaction has changed in its quality. Plus, we also I've seen the increase of the supply that also suggests that this is so different from anything what we've seen before.
那么为什么我们说这是个高潮行为呢？刚才除了讲了它上升的这一段波段以外，从下降波段也可以去确认这是一个高潮行为。首先呢，我们可以看到下降波段的时候呢，它只有2个 K 线就降低了到了这个整个下降波段的底部，也就是下降的越急，这它们就是特性改变，这就出现了特性改变，特性改变越明显。为什么叫特性改变？大家看到这个下降波段的这个幅度比以前任何一次调整的幅度都大，也就和这个幅度相当的，所以说它是属于特性改变。另外呢，除了这个特性改变的这个整个的走的这个距离以外，看到它这个价差，一个 K 线的价差也比以前要都大。另外成交量，这个特性改变的这段这2个K 线的成交量也显著的比以前的这个下降 K 线的成交量高。
Another couple of worthy notices here is that the reaction of the low to the upside actually comes to about 1/2 of this trading range, which shows some kind of weakness and suggests a retest of the low. The next retest comes on the localized increase of the supply, but it's slightly smaller than the supply that we've experienced in potential phase A. And then the next 2 spreads are actually showing some inability of the price to go lower and to go lower significantly below this shorter term support, which suggests some kind of potential for the rally.
然后在这个调整到底线以后，我们再看它的上升这一段，而它在反弹上升这一段呢，只反弹了1/2左右，然后就立刻再次测试这个自动下跌这个底部。而在这个测试过程中，我们看到这个成交量比这段成交量要小得多，而且到最后2个 K 线的时候，大家注意到这是一个 Doji K 线，Doji K 线呢，而且它的成交量也非常低，通过价差来说，它只到这个的低点，也就是说通过这2个以后，价差减低，成交量减低，这个也就是说有反转的可能。
Now let's look at the daily chart and let's increase the picture here and talk about what's happening. Well, we saw this climactic run, and we've talked about the climactic characteristics. We also have seen on the weekly chart how the change of character looked. Well, that's how it looks here on the daily, with the increased volume signature and with such a sharp reaction with several gaps that we see to the downside, and that defines the law of the automatic reaction. And then the rally off this oversold condition actually on the daily looks like a strong rally. But again, it doesn't really come to the levels of the previous resistance that shows that type of weakness.
那么从日线图上我们看到，这一段时间呢，就这一段，当时是在周线图的那段那个高潮向上涨，然后呢，到抢过高潮以后，股市K线开始下跌，价格下跌，这段是自动下跌，这段也就是我们看到特性改变这一段，而且我们可以看到特性改变相应的成交量也非常大，大家可以看到这几个有一个跳空，然后到自动下跌的低点以后开始反弹，大家看到这段反弹的时候呢，看似 K 线很强，但是它反弹只反弹到2/32左右，而没有到前面的顶点，这是它的比较弱的地方。
So now going into phase B, which is gonna be characterized with a lot of different moves, ups and down, and it's gonna have a lot of that volatility either to the upside or to the downside. And that's why this is a very volatile phase for us. And we're trying to stay away with our trading from this particular phase.
然后呢，进入阶段 B， 大家可以在阶段 B 的时候，罗蒙老师勾出了2个这个跳空区，也是在这个跳空区的时候，大家可以看到这段时间震动非常大，向上不管是向上震动也好，向下震动也好，都是幅度非常大的。所以说这个阶段 B 一般来说，很多人要避开，不在这个区域阶段去做交易。
So this move to the downside that has some supply increase behind it as a signature suggests that we're going to have some kind of retest of this area, which we do. And it's really good that we're having a higher low here relative to the low of the automatic reaction. We are slightly sprinting this low relative to the short-term lows established in phase B, and that suggests some kind of rally. Now we have to look at the result of the rally and the quality of the rally to define what's going to happen next. We're seeing that in terms of the demand signature, we're probably seeing slight increase in the demand signature on average, but relative to the previous rallies in the trading range that we have had, we can't really overcome yet this short-term resistance right here. So it's only when we would overcome it, we would confirm that we could have another target for the rally and possibly even 2. Or if we fail, then we would most likely retest the lows that were established by the automatic reaction low.
在阶段 B 的时候，我们看到正好有一个跳空，跳空完以后呢，成交量非常大，相对应的成交量非常大。然后它也就是说这个时候我们看到这是有供应比较大，供应比较大以后呢，我们知道不管这个股价会怎么发展，它肯定会要回测这个阶段，也就是看看这个段供应还有没有，也就是这段就是回测阶段。而回测完以后呢，它甚至出现了低底，也就是底比底低，而这段阶段我们呢把它叫做 spring 或弹簧效应。通过弹簧效应以后，而且是一键返回，这时候我们知道这有可能是有一段要回弹，要向上反弹。向上反弹，我们看虽然是这段向上反弹的成交量要比前面的成交量稍微高一点，但是它反弹的高度却没有前面高，它反弹的高度反倒低了，所以这点实际上我们看到它比较弱。所以说如果是说这个股价要继续上涨的话，那么我们需要看到它要回到前期的高点，这个高点甚至要回到这个高点的时候，我们才说这个股价有可能它能够站上，而且能够继续上涨。如果不是这样的话，如果它没有上升到这儿的话，那么有可能它要继续回测这个低点，甚至这个低点，自动下跌的低点。
So when we are in a situation like this, where we're still thinking that we could be in the potential phase B, the key is to find the stocks that are either stronger than the market and that already have completed the structure with phases C and possibly even D. Or if we think that the market is going to go down, then we want to look at the weaker stocks that also have concluded their distribution structure, and then use those stocks for our trading.
所以说这种情况下的话呢，我们判断它有可能还是在阶段 B。那么如果是大家可以看到很多股票，就是多看几只股票的话，那么我们会找比较强的股票。强的股票有可能这个时候它结构已经发展完了，有可能是阶段 B、阶段 C 都已经发展了，而且已经做了突破了。这个时候呢，我们要如果做多的话，那么就找强的股票。如果是做空，当然在中国大陆的话，有可能现在还不能做空。如果做空的话，我们就找比较弱的股票，也就是它这个结构也发展完了，而且它跌破了这个交易区间的时候，这种股票是比较弱的股票。
And this is it for today. Next time, or in the future sessions, we'll discuss, the top-bottom approach, where we look at the market, sectors, industry groups, stocks, and that would give you a little bit better understanding as to what exactly would you be looking for in this type of the situation. This is it for today. Again, thank you so much for joining us and for listening to our recordings. We look forward to our next videos.
好，今天大家就讲到这里。然后呢，我们下次的话，有可能要讲一讲从上到下的这个选股策略。讲完策略以后，大家可能对选股如何选股更加清楚一点。感谢大家，今天跟我们一起来观看这个视频，也感谢大家给我们发信，给我们提出疑问或者留言。
Thank you again, and bye-bye.
好，谢谢，再见。
All right, Mike.